And do you want one?
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah, okay. Let's send them around. How many do we need? There we go. Good deal. Yes, sir, by all means. Yeah, we got a few left, and you're all covered over here. Pay attention, this is going to be awesome. This guy was talking tonight. You're going to start to like him after a while. Not yet. All right, we'll take our chances. All right. We ready to roll, Chris? Okay, good deal. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to do something once we start to share the common language. You'll know it to be second gear, which means I'm going to take my device and shut her off so it doesn't get in anybody's way, including mine. All right, what a joy to see you here tonight. I'll be curious, although I'm only picking up a little bit here and there in terms of why you're here. Some of you have heard me speak about this. The tool we're going to go over tonight is something that maybe you've heard me speak about, how fundamentally helpful it has been in my own life and in a relationship with my son, and how it helps teams and families and organizations get a lot better. So if you have a workbook there, you're going to see the subtitle. It says, How to Be Present and Productive When There's Never Enough Time. Some of you may know the story that actually follows the story of the Good Samaritan, which is what we looked at last Sunday here. But there's a story immediately after that story that's commonly referred to as Mary and Martha. Now, when I say that, just give a head nod if you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, that's okay too. But the story, it's in Luke chapter, it is in Luke chapter 10, following the Good Samaritan. But it's where, I'll just read it for you. And it's about two people who are approaching life differently in that very moment. Okay, so when we talk about being present, that means, hey, we're in on each other. Or we're in the moment, we're paying attention to people around us and our world. Productive means sometimes we got to get at it, okay? And in this story, you've got Martha is being very productive but not very present. Mary is being very present, and she's letting Martha take care of the rest. In the moment, Jesus said, all right, Mary chose the better stuff. Now, there's other times I'm confident Jesus would have said, hey, we have to Martha up a little bit here too. Right? So we have two things to do, and what we're not going to do is shame anyone tonight if you tend toward being present or you tend toward being productive. What we're going to do is call up some good things in us. All right? So let me just read that text, and then we're going to get on to the workshop. But really, we're on to the workshop right now. So it says, now as they were on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you're anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, and that will not be taken away from her. All right. A little bit of a setup. By the way, were any of you here, I'm just curious, last Sunday, just a few days ago, when I spoke on the parable of the Good Samaritan? All right. I'm just going to tell you something really personal. I had taken a couple of days off. You know, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and I've got a month here with you all at Frontline. But I did a little bit of touring this last week, so I went up the area toward Bastogne and toward Luxembourg. Very first time in my life this has ever happened, but my phone, which was not recharging, had gone dead on me, and I was in the middle of Luxembourg City, and I had no way to get out. So what I did is I felt the heavy of all of that, like whoa. But I also felt some responsibility since I've been encouraging us all to observe the birds of the air and chill out a little bit, look for what's in the midst of your schedule interruptions. So it's a beautiful story, which I'll only give a moment to, but I was like, all right, I'm going to behave, God, and I'm going to see what's in front of me, and I'm going to see if someone will help me. And a guy got out of his van. I was looking for some help. Guy I never knew at all. I could see he was moving some things around in his van. He was dressed in a white shirt. He was a courier, a driver. He had a van where he would drive people around. But I went up to him and I said, I need some help. You know what he did? He first of all said, okay, I'm going to give you a bottle of water. You need water right now. He didn't take a moment to think about it. He said, you got to take care of yourself. You're going to be okay. And then I said, well, and he said, so what's up? And I said, my phone has died. I don't know what to do, et cetera, et cetera. He was so kind to me. He was so caring to me. And then he gave me a charger because the car I had did not have one. And he just blessed me with it. And we started to trade our stories, and to come to find out he was a believer on Jesus. And he was from Brazil, immigrant from not all that long ago. And did we have the stories to share? And it was just really, really cool. So I went away with a story in the midst of my mayhem where I was like, wow, I was really cared for. All right. So I want tonight, in the little bit of time we're together, let's be expectant of what those of us who let's say we're believers and we expect things from God. Let's be in that place. And let's just anticipate that our time is going to be worthwhile. All right. So you have your workbook with you. I'm going to show you something right now, and I honestly don't care how you group up, but there are times when I'm going to ask you to group up. It's just that I don't think our group should be more than like 3 people when you're starting to share a few things, because if it goes more than 3, it can take a long, long time. So there might be times I'm just going to say, hey, pop up, find somebody, and we're going to show you some things. So we're going to be looking at the screen, and some of you have been here more than once, and you've seen I've used these visual tools, which I use in the work that I do, helping companies and organizations get healthier. But Chris, as we advance, I want to show what is called, and it's in your book there. It's just called the Hope Meter. Now, just take a look at it, because if you see, that's that multicolored tool that is right there on the very first page, and you can probably already figure out what this tool does. It's basically asking the question, how are you doing? How are you doing in the moment? Okay? Now, you walk into a place like this, you might see somebody and say, how are you doing? And it could just be a flyover conversation. But this tool, and hopefully we're going to get it right on this, we'll be able to get it right on the screen here, but right now just pay attention to the visual that is on the top of this very first inside page. Okay? Now, it's called the Hope Meter. Upper left is the name of the tool, but it is designed just to help you describe what's going on with you right now. And right in the middle, it says, how hopeful are you today about your tomorrow? It's just a little gauge. And you can describe your answer to someone next to you with a color. You could say, oh, I'm kind of red. And by the way, we give more reds than we give greens. Life has more, even Jesus said, in this world, you're going to have trouble. Okay. But we give more number, or we give more span for red. Some of us are saying, I'm in red right now. Or someone might say, I'm in yellow. Or someone might say, I'm in green. Or you can put a word on it. The word would be what? Hey, I'm burned out right now. Or I'm stuck. Or I'm excited. Or it could be a color or a number right in there. Okay? So all I want you to do is bump a neighbor, or in groups no larger than 3. Otherwise, as I said, it'll take too long. Everybody gets about 45 seconds just to say how they're doing right now. How's your hope right now? All right? So take it away. Go. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds or so in your groups. All right. I guess I got to give a little more time here. Okay. All right, going to give us about 10 more seconds on this tool. You can see this is a check-in tool. This means, how's your hope these days? See, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I'm going to make a point right now about the use of a visual tool. And I realize we have a little technical problem here. I don't know if we'll be able to retrieve it. But if not, we're still going to make good use of our time. I've got a presentation just about understanding the gears. But here's the idea with the visuals that we use. In science, or in brain science, they call this neurolinguistics. It means that a picture is what? Worth 1,000 words. You see a picture, imagine, like for all of us that have like a phone, a cellular phone, notice how many icons are on that phone. It's little pictures. What if they had to give us a full paragraph for every one of those? You'd never get anything done. Now, who is I talking about? Oh, it's my friend from Milwaukee, and I didn't get your name. Did you say Alyssa? All right, so Alyssa, we were talking a little football just before, and it had to do with the Bears and the Packers and some of these other things. Interestingly enough, I have had privilege to teach this 5 gears tool, both with people from the Green Bay Packers and with people from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think anybody with the Chicago Bears, but I've just had some unusual relationships that have given me that opportunity. Now, this is what you can do, and I'm just going to ask just for a raise of hands here, but how many of us played a high school or college sport? All right. Wow. Shout out what you played. What did you do in high school or college? Track. Softball, I heard. Football. All right. In the green shirt, number 11. Football. High school, college. College. Offense, defense. Call out a play right now. A play that you would have heard in the huddle. All right. He heard it. His teammates would have heard that and known exactly what he was referring to. They would have known their assignments, right? They would have known who's going to hit which gap. They know who's going to take out this linebacker. They know who's going to be doing a route, just because of what you said. And I found it interesting because even with the Green Bay Packers, one guy that I remember, 50 years, retired from the league. We were on a cruise. It was a big fans, etc. cruise. And I said, John, call out a play. He said, back when I was a Packer, yes, 50 years ago, call out a play. He called out a play, just like what you did, number 11. And what's your name, by the way? Damien. It's awesome. Actually, my friend who got me into working within the NFL his name is Damien. But here's the whole point. We remember stuff like that. And imagine that if you had to have a conversation every time you got into the huddle. Right? If you had, no, I didn't mean this, I meant that. No, you go here, you go there. Right? It would just be exhausting. And there'd be so much blame casting, and you would never advance the ball. You would never win games. I'm going to suggest we need similar kind of things in our relationships, where we can call out a play rather than have a big, long conversation. Like, why are you never on time? Or how come you're always soon to be on that device? Or why can't we this? Or explain yourself this way? Or to shrink back, like you really need some time to yourself. You really need some time to yourself, but you're never going to tell anybody at work or in the family or somewhere. You're never going to have a way to signal it. But what if we could call plays? So for instance, right now, I'm pretty confident that if we took a break and we were just walking around a little bit, and I just said to some of you, someone I hadn't even spoken to yet, I might say, hey, how's your hope, by the way? And I'll bet you could give me a meaningful answer. I just called a play. You might say, it's kind of in the green right now. Cool. Or it's sort of in the red, or it's a little wobbly, right? We're calling plays so we can avoid long and exhausting conversations. And we can be clear, and it makes us better. That's the idea of being present and productive. So what happens is, and again, I've got a presentation, and maybe what I'll do is I'll pull it up and make a few comments, but I think we can make a lot of progress just if you have this visual in front of you, which is called the 5 Gears tool. Does everybody have a copy? Well, we might not have enough copies of the worksheets themselves. If somebody is abandoned and really needs you don't have enough with you, we'll get a couple to split one up. So who needs a copy of the workbook, so to speak, the worksheets? Anyone? We got more than one we can hand around? All right, I don't want anyone to go alone on this. So, but what I do want you to have is the visual on the 5 gears. And you've got it on you've got it in your worksheets, but there's also some cards right there. Alrighty? So with no further ado, I'm going to explain how this tool works. And then I'm going to explain to you how it became so foundationally helpful. Someone needs some worksheets. Who needs worksheets? Chris, thanks for... Yeah, and would you mind grabbing one of the cards for me, Chris? Thank you. Alrighty. So I want to set this up, and if some of you heard me speak here at Frontline, thank you, man. I'm going to describe what happened 10 years ago. Here we go. Look at this. Nicely done, guys. Thanks for working hard on all this. All right? I know that can be frustrating. So I'm going to set this up, but then we're going to go, presumably go through some slides and some other things that are going to be helpful. So we're going to do this by rote memory just to learn the tool, understand what it means, and then we're going to go through a process to ask ourselves, how healthy are we in this gear? And then we're going to ask ourselves, what are some next steps for us? Okay? So let me explain the situation that happened. When I say that this tool, it was 10 years ago, my older son Andrew and I, we were having a father-son time. And guess what we were doing? We were going to watch a football game. So he was over at my house. And while we were talking, while we were watching the game, he was constantly on his phone texting. Even 10 years ago. Now it's even more common, but 10 years ago. And I wasn't saying anything about it because I was trying to be the nice guy. But what happens if you don't say anything and 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 the pressure builds and you don't? And I'm seeing a therapist's eyes pop up, and so the whole point is there's going to be an explosion. All right. So we were there watching this game, but he wasn't watching, so I kept hinting. And hinting is not good form either. But while I'm hinting and hinting and hinting, and I'm suggesting, oh, did you see that play, this, that, whatever. My assumption is that we were present with each other, but guess what? He was in another world. And I finally blew up on him. And I just let him have it. And he came back hard at me. Well, you. Have you ever had those situations in the home? Me, you. Or possibly even at work. And sometimes at work you have to be compliant and take it. But we're going to suggest there are better ways to go. And by the way, if all you go for in life, in the home, in relationship, or even at work, if all you do is go for compliance, you will not get engagement. Okay. If you go for engagement, you will get compliance as is needed because you'll have the relational authority to be able to command, so to speak. Okay, so I'm gonna just let that sit for a moment because I had just learned this visual tool. I had just learned this on my journey to doing the kind of work that I was doing, and it was actually after what happened to Andrew and me, in the 15 minutes that we learned this, that's where I said, I'm going to do this as a consultant. I'm going to bring this to companies. I'm going to bring this to homes. I'm going to bring this to nonprofits. I'm going to be able to do it. So I'm going to explain that as we go through the tool, but all I need you to do is pay attention and go down the gearbox. All right. Now, most of us, especially here in Europe, are going to know something about 5-speed and transmissions and engines and transmissions working together. I'm going to make a suggestion right away that if you have a vehicle and you are only in one gear all day, all time, something is going to blow, right? Something will blow and the transmission or the engine is going to go, something is going to falter. If we had a longer time, I might say, hey, nudge your neighbor and tell about your first major car repair problem. And was it maybe an engine or a transmission? But there's an overlying theme here, is that the overuse or the complete neglect of any gear is gonna raise health issues. Let me put it that way. Okay. So yesterday I was driving in a friend's car that I've got for the rest of the time that I'm here, and I had been running the 5-speed and doing fine, and then it's finally occurred to me it actually had 6 gears. And I actually could have had access to that 6th gear had I just paid attention. But here's what we're going to do, very quickly go down and explain what we mean. So all you got to do is look at the tool, and then we're going to go deeper through a presentation here. All right? So just like the gears of a car, 5th gear is what we're calling, it's kind of a maximum productivity time. And you can read the subline there. It says, it's in the zone, it's fully focused and immersed in a project. Okay, we call that focus mode. So yesterday I was autobahning and some today, and it's just amazing how quickly you can get velocitized. You can be going faster than you ever thought you were going, but the world just seems to chill and go by. That can happen at work too. You can get in a project or something that is really of interest to you. Time will just fly by because you're focused and you're uninterrupted and you're just in your own. So we're going to call 5th gear. We're putting a label on it. We're putting a play on it. We are saying 5th gear is when you're in the zone and it's an introverted space of getting stuff done. Okay? Now, let's call that focus mode. In fact, let's say that together. 5th gear is focus mode, right? You're in the gear hard, you're going after it, you're getting stuff done. Everybody needs some 5th gear. Some people say every gear, every day. I don't know if I think that way, but I would say that probably every week you're going to need some time when you are uninterrupted at work. Okay, I was teaching this with some people at a paper plate factory. They were managers of a paper plate factory. And I said to the managers, how much 5th gear do you need every week? And they agreed. They said, we probably need about 4 or 5 hours each person, each manager, for 5th gear things like scheduling, like filing reports, like making requests, like managing time off, like correcting bad behaviors and things like that. Now, I'm just going to say that, let's say I need some time where I cannot be interrupted. In fact, what I told the church when I came over here, I didn't use this language, but I told the elders, I'm happy to come and serve for a few weeks. But I said, I need to be uninterruptible on Saturdays. Okay. So even if I'm staying in someone's home and they're around, I cannot be disturbed on Saturdays because that's when I'm getting in the zone. Right? I'm getting ready and I cannot be interrupted. If I get interrupted and I've got to talk to every person in the place, et cetera, it's going to be really hard. Every person needs fifth gear. What did we call fifth gear? Focus mode, all right? That's an introverted space, me doing work by myself. By the way, one of my friends, he's in financial services, but at home they put a little sign on his door. A lot of work from home, but it's a little sign for his daughters, and it just says, Dad's in fifth gear until 3 o'clock. Okay. Now, one of the little girls figured it out and said, well, do you mean if you get more 5, then I'll get more 2 later on? Exactly. So even 6-year-olds can learn this language, all right? Enough on fifth gear. Let's look at fourth gear, okay? Just take a peek. And do you see what we're saying? Fourth gear, it's called task mode. It means multitasking and managing to-do lists, right? You're getting more and more things done. But here, this would be fourth gear. I'm multitasking. Let's say I have an office. The office door is wide open. People can stop by. They can tap on the door. They can say, hey, do you have a little bit of time? Maybe there's... Ooh, we're back. All right. Maybe it's text messaging, maybe taking a call. It'd be all these kind of things. And here we go. Thank you. Nicely done. Nicely done, Chris. So this is what fourth gear is. It's multitasking. It's very, very reactive. All right? And it's an open door policy. Now, it's a very necessary gear. We've got to be able to expose ourselves. If we're stuck in fifth gear all day, what? We're productive, but we're not present. But if there's any gear we can get stuck in these days, it's fourth gear. From the moment you go to bed at night to the moment you get up, and in between when you get up to take your little stroll to the bathroom. It could be checking devices, see what I've missed. Some people in military service, they always have to be in fourth gear. I mean, it's a requirement for some period of time. And I'm not going to overstep those bounds, but I am going to say everybody's got to find spaces where their gears are healthy. All right? So, fourth gear, do you know what it's like? Let's say you want to have a conversation with someone, and it's just like my son Andrew and me, we're in the home. I think it's father-son time, and he's working his device. Well, have you ever said to somebody, hey, let's just go device-free right now? Hey, what if we turn off the phones during Thanksgiving? Hey, what if we? But I will tell you, those kind of conversations rarely end well. Somebody takes it as an affront, or I can't ever do that. A friend of mine took her daughters to her native land of Australia, and they were going to go without phones for 2 weeks, and one of her daughters just went crazy. All right, but she says, no, we're going to force us into better health during this time. All right, so fourth gear is multitasking. It's doing a lot of things at once, and it can be really, really difficult, but it can also mess with relationship. Does that make sense? The overuse or the complete neglect of any gear can lead to unhealth, or at least tell you that there is unhealth. This is why if someone comes here and you're a couple and you're saying, man, we're already losing it, this language is going to help you get better. And by the way, I'm going to say that the sign language works really well, right? Let's say I'm in an open space and we share this language and I have a corner desk or something, but someone's coming my way and I could just like quickly go like this. You know, just for 10 minutes. Somebody that shares the language, they know I've just called a play and they can engage in it. All right? Okay, so fourth gear is multitasking, right? So let's just go again. Fifth gear is focus mode. Fourth gear is task mode, right? It's multitasking. Just be careful on this one because you can way overdo it and always be in fourth gear. You're going to pay a price for that, but that's true if you're stuck in any gear. Alrighty, we're going down the gearbox and we're going to third gear. Third gear is called social mode. What's it called again? Social mode, right? Look at what it is. It's the dinner party. It's drinks after work. It's the golf course. It's hanging out after church. It's going up, meeting up with somebody for a meal. It's hey, let's go see the parade, or do you want to do something? Now, some people don't naturally like third gear. All right. There's some secrets about third gear that need to be understood by people who want to avoid third gear. It is where you gain your influence. It is where people try you on, right? It's in third gear. If there's someone in your world you want to gain influence with, whatever, a relative, someone in the home, whatever, find space where you can do some things where you're unplugged. Third gear is interesting, by the way. We'll look at it a little bit more. But third gear in a social space actually gives us freedom to move gears pretty quickly. Have you ever noticed that let's just say a dinner party, or like here what they're describing, some people gathering. Oh, just back up to that slide. We just had it there, Chris. I wanted you to see the picture there in the back. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Chris. But you can see there in third gear. But look there's a couple of people here sort of paired off. Right? That happens when you're around the big table. And you'll find out, wow, I just spent 15, 20 minutes talking to someone next to me. That's what we're going to call second gear in just a minute, but that's like connect space. Okay? And other people, they might be saying, hey, remember, we've got the presentation tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, so everybody be ready, right? It could be more of a fourth gear space. Okay? But that's what third gear does. It allows you to gain influence, and people try you on. Alrighty? So, third gear is called social mode. Let's just see how we're doing. Fifth gear, focus mode. Okay, fourth gear, task mode. Third gear, social mode. Alrighty, let's keep going then. Second gear is connect mode. It says right on the tool, and here's what we're going to say connect mode is. It's active listening. It's deeper conversation. It's you, me time. It could be a family space of a small gathering, but it certainly would be true for couples or friends. Hey, listen, we need some second gear. I will promise you that is a whole lot better than why are you constantly at work, what's happened to us, et cetera, right? But to be able to signal this, honey, well, you wouldn't say that necessarily. You could use honey in a lot of places, right? But just to say, I need some second gear. We need to be in second gear. This is what happened to Andrew and me, by the way. As we were going through this, we made a decision. And when we got to second gear, Andrew said to me, now this was my 26-year-old son at the time. Now he's 36. We have had 10 years of practically uninterrupted love toward each other. I think we have gotten into conflict maybe 6 or 7 times, like stressed out with each other. And in each case, in 3 of those 7 times, I was about to hit reverse down here. We talked about that last Sunday, about backing up and apologizing. Honest to goodness, I was about to call him to say, Andrew, I need to back up and apologize. 3 of those 7 times, he's calling me to say, Dad, I got to back up and apologize. All right? So you see what's happened here. It makes us better when we can do this language together. So what happened in that moment, just in us sitting down and looking at the tool, we just made a decision. And he said, what if whenever we go together, we automatically go to second gear? We just assume second gear unless we signal otherwise. And I said, let's try it. Let's try it on. So guess what happened? A few days later, he shows up at my place. I open the door. He's standing at the door like this. I just gave it right back. Hey, we're in second. Now, could you imagine, instead, if he comes over and I said, all right, you're going to be off your phone, right? Right? That's never going to work. But for us, we define second gear is that it's us alone and we're not interrupted by devices. And a few days later, he comes over again because we were going to go out for dinner. He picks me up. He says, Dad, I'm in second, but at 6 o'clock, I got to go to fourth for 5 minutes. I said, bango, got it. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to give you one more. I told about a friend of mine this last Sunday. His name was Gene. He's the guy who's always got $100 ready. All right? So he and I were in Denver, and we were pitching some of the work that we do. And we're sitting down with a bank president named Jim, and we're at a coffee shop, and while we were there, I'm going through a few things to show him what I do. Jim. Well, guess what? Right in the moment, Gene grabs his phone, and starts working his phone. Now, he knows I'm going to get ticked off in the moment, right? And all he did, he just saw, I mean, he understood the dynamic, but he just did this to me. He just went. In other words, he knew what he was doing. Tom, I got to jump into fourth gear for a second. It's a whole lot better than some big blabbermouth explanation. But he said he knew what he was doing, and what he was doing is trying to find a picture to show this guy Jim. Okay, so it's the power of that language, right? So fifth gear, focus mode. Fourth gear, task mode. Third gear, social mode. Second gear, connect mode. And then first gear, well, that's recharge. It's the lowest of the gears, but it's generally an introverted space, but people recharge different ways. It could be, I need a nap. It could be, you need a nap, right? Honey or buddy, hey, just get some first gear. Just take some first gear, okay? And I'm thinking of a moment now. I'm thinking of a moment with, where I was teaching some of this, but it was at a camp in Southern California. And this friend of mine, he and I were going to get together in the afternoon to do some strategic planning. And if you've ever been on a retreat where like you get the afternoon of a certain day off and people go do their own thing. Well, I'm walking toward him because what I'm wanting to do is we're going to strategize in terms of when we're going to meet up. And all he did when he was walking toward me, he just did this. He's like, I'll see you at 2:00. No big explanation, no big, I'm just totally fried, I need some time. But he was just saying, I need some first gear. Okay. I'm going to illustrate one more. We'll finish it off, and then we'll take a little bit of a break, and we're going to get back into doing our health check, all right? But this is back to my friend Gene. We got stories from everywhere. But I think you're going to understand how the gears really work well. Just if I can illustrate an incident between Gene and his wife Carol. I would, for a while, I was staying in their home regularly because of work that Gene and I were doing in Denver. And every night it was the same routine. I think over the course of 2 years, I probably spent 50 nights in their home. And every night we would have dinner, and Carol would go back to her space in the house. And regularly, Gene and I would sit around the living room, watch a game or something, just guy stuff. Well, I would notice when Carol would go back to her space, where I'd never been to, but she was back beyond us. Once in a while, she would come back out. And Gene would see her coming out and would start engaging with her. How you doing? How's it going? How you doing? How's it going? But you could see on her face that she was not wanting to even be in another conversant place, right? But she had to walk past by the gauntlet. And I said, well, Carol, have you ever learned this? I said, let me teach it to you. And Gene knew it, but at that point had not applied it in the home. So when I taught her that, I remember the very first night that she was taught this. She's back to her place. She's in her room. She's coming out to go get another cup of herbal tea or whatever it was. She has to walk past us. And as she walks out of the room, she does this. That's the finger she used. So it was not aggressive. It was, okay. And as soon as Gene saw her, he habitually made a comment. It was really cute and funny in the moment, but he was like, oh, so you're in first gear. Good, blah, blah. And I said, Gene, she's in first gear. And then he just laughed and he quieted it down. But do you see how this can be so helpful? And let me just say one other thing, and then we'll take a short break. Reverse. I talked about it on Sunday, but it means you can have a car where reverse, and here we call it responsive. You can have a car where it does not go in reverse. Okay, and I did. My first car was a 1964 Chrysler Newport, and it had a push-button transmission, and the reverse had gone out, and I had lived a long time without reverse. And you can do it, but man, you got to watch where you park. And I would metaphorically say I was a real bad apologizer. And you've heard me say this already, up until probably 10 years ago. And it's insecurities, probably never saw good apologies growing up. There were things like that. But man, I would do everything I could to look perfect or park perfect and try to manage that way. It is so much easier to say, I need to go into reverse. In fact, it gives us good language to get started. But there's something else. Sometimes we are requesting it of someone else. Okay? And I had learned, because I was actually teaching the 5 gears to traffic instructors for the state of Oregon, traffic school, drivers, education teachers. And I was like bemoaning, I wish we had hand language for reverse. And they said, oh, we do. Now, do any of you know sign language? Because I learned that doing this, it's like an R, it means reverse. It's the signal for reverse or backing up. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is I have a really good friend, and I'll give you a little bit more illustration about this friend of mine from my home, or from the town that I live in. But she knew this language because of some things we needed to do to get our friendship right. But I can think it was within the last year, it was at church, it was after church, probably about 6, 7, 8 of us were in a grouping and just chit-chatting, and I said something that was not complimentary to my friend. And she caught it, and as soon as I said it, have you ever said something as soon as you say it, trying to be funny, but like, no, that wasn't helpful. And she just looks over at me, and she just did this. She was like, and I know that you're going to apologize. And I just looked back and I said, you got it. We got this. But do you see how this makes us better human beings? All right. Now that's the idea. Let's do this. I see it's at 7:20 on the clock. What if we take 6 minutes, like on that clock, 7:25 is we're going to start to do a health check-in. But right now, I think you already know the gears, right? And it won't take that long where this starts to become regular, for you and the people that you want it to be known to. Okay? So, sound good? We got about a 5 or 6 minute break, and we'll start at 7:25, and we're going to do a little health checkup. All right? Thanks. By the way, we're in 3rd gear now. So we got 5 minutes of 3rd gear. Let me do this. seconds, everybody. Oop, there we go, 60 seconds. All right. Hey, let's just try this. Just bump a neighbor right now. It could just be a pair. I don't care how you do it, but just say, what's been helpful to you so far? Or what's intriguing to you right now? So just do a little neighbor bump, and then we're going to get in some help. Yeah. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All righty. I realize I'm giving some of you way too short amount of time on this. We're gonna do a health checkup on this, but I'm gonna we're gonna look at some warning signs. So do you remember earlier that I had made the statement, the overuse of any gear or the complete neglect of any gear will lead toward health or health issues. So let me just go through these. These are fifth gear warning signs. And again, you're gonna see versions of overdoing it and underdoing it. And yes, by all means, if you want to snap a photo, you're going to have all my contact information too later. So I'm happy to send you any of this. And shoot, even Chris and I up here, we're looking at some other tools earlier. There's a lot of really, really wonderful things for you. So you know you have an unhealthy fifth gear. I'll say it, or you could, right? If you're exhausted, ill, close to burnout because you don't know how to stop working. You have long-term relational issues because in other people's opinions, your work always comes first. You're overused fifth and tend to crash into an unhealthy first. You understand that? It's like, boom, burnout. You see that your spouse, kids, friends are no longer surprised when you're busy working. You notice people around you hinting that you work too much. You make it a pattern of eating meals in front of your computer or working instead of connecting. That could be a real change, by the way, a really powerful change to make your work lunches third gear, because you will start to get more out of one another. I mean, you'll be alive. I don't mean that we're objects to be exploited. I mean, you really will, by knowing some things about one another in third gear. Be better. You'll stop being asked by people to be involved in social activities or casual connections. I know people that I've stopped inviting. And you use work and study as an excuse to avoid people. Right? That could happen also. So it's just think, overuse, underuse. Let's look at fourth gear warning signs. Some of these you're going to know. I mean, we say consistently starting your day, well, with email. That might even seem a little yesteryear, but starting it with, catching up on just observing notifications. Some people, it never occurred to them they don't have to have notifications on. Now, I realize that's not exclusively true in every situation, because I understand some degrees of responsiveness are necessary. And so I'm not going to play that down. I am going to say that there's more in our control than we maybe have given ourselves credit for and others credit for. So you hear people consistently saying that you seem obsessed. It's the same kind of stuff. You think that achievement is the driving motivation for your life. If you attend Frontline, 2 weeks ago we actually talked about that. We said birds, not as many barns, Yeah. Set no boundaries on your time and typically default to fourth gear. I mean, I don't know what's going on with people, but I went out for dinner by myself last Sunday. Well, no, I'm fine. I mean, Chris has taken me out for lunch. We're moving into promise for that. No, but I'm just saying, like, I don't have really the moral authority to put a label on this, but I'm just telling you, there was a couple sitting right next to me. And the whole time, their meal, this is what they're doing. Now, I know it's not just devices, okay? Right? It'd be about anything. You know, it could just be, hey, are we here or aren't we? By the way, onto the second gear, my buddy Jeff back home, he had a brilliant point. He said, other people get to speak to whether we're in second gear or not. And he was describing they had a home reading time. They called it second gear together. He was reading on his phone, and his daughter said, it doesn't feel like you're in second. He says, well, I'm reading the Bible. They said, it still doesn't feel like it. Right? So he went there. But sometimes, you know, we don't have to use this to batter each other too, right? The spouse can say, honey, where are you right now? It doesn't feel like you're here. Right? Where are you? You know. Okay. So we're in fourth. Feel anxiety, separation when you're away from, devices. Consistently drained, never fully recharged. Feel like it takes a lot of effort to consistently get into second, third. By the way, on that anxiety, that was me yesterday when my device died. So it takes a lot of effort to get into third and second. Struggle for consistent sleep. Physically present, but not really there, or you're maybe emotionally absent. And see a lot of activity, but you don't see a lot of progress. So it's just thought, right? Food for thought. Let's hit third gear warning signs. Basically, you could have an unhealthy third gear if you procrastinate and avoid fourth gear work. Can you overdo third? Yep. Can you underdo it? Yeah. Need a party to make life exciting. Actively avoid social settings, on the other hand, because, it might be shyness or fear of what others say or, whatever. But this is, again, where you're going to gain influence. You never go deep enough and remain superficial in all relationships. Have a reputation for being lazy or that work is an inconvenience. You have a lack of discipline and professionalism. You flit in and out of social gatherings, avoiding deep conversations, appear to have a mask of superficiality, and are reluctant to actually be vulnerable with people. And you have a fear of missing out. That's the FOMO thing, right? Fear of missing out on social activities and others having a good time without you. And it could cause you to, some things like that. All right, so overuse or the complete neglect can show unhealth. Second, can you overdo second gear? Yeah. Can you underdo it? For sure. So obsessing about key relationships in your life and not the person you're talking to, right? You're in another space. Find that your constant desire for depth in conversations keeps you from valuing third gear connectivity. Talking too much and for too long as your normal tendency. Spending an inappropriate amount of time caring for people at work rather than working. Putting unrealistic expectations on people to connect and eventually isolate yourself. Constantly struggle with having the right conversation but in the wrong context, and are so present focused that you struggle to see the big picture. Okay. So last week I was advocating that we do go deeper with people. And, a couple questions, 2, 3, whatever, deep so people are seeing. But man, you can wear people out too, right? If it's not an expectation. So it's try to hit the gears. Okay, let's look at first gear, unhealth, warning. Then we'll show you how we're going to grade ourselves out. First gear, you could accept escapism from reality as your norm. And I know life is hard and there are pain dynamics. And there are times we just want to avoid, but we cannot always. We've got to be able to hit the gears and be as healthily human as possible. Get lost in a new book or a new idea most of the week. Devote too much time to first and not connecting with others. Focus on exercise and diet, those health dynamics that are important, but it becomes overbearing or a barrier to relationship. That can happen. Everything could revolve around over that schedule. I just think it through, right? Your recharge routines constantly dictate everybody else's, and binging on TV or something, and just escaping forever and relying on a very small number of relationships without connecting to the broader world. All right, let's hit reverse. I'm just going to ask, how many here would say you're pretty healthy with apologizing? Pretty good? Or how many would say, boy, I'm not that good at apologizing? I mean, that would definitely be me. A former version of me, but it's still to start it is important, right? That's sometimes going to be the harder thing. But how easy do you find it to apologize? And there could be some unhealthy warnings, but I would just say if you can't apologize, we just want to get that better. This tool will help you if you share the language. And I actually did it. Yeah, I did it last Sunday, right? I said, hey, here's something I need to apologize for. But it's the language that has made me better. Hey, I need to back up and apologize. But did I say this, that I also teach this in construction companies? And there's a pretty sizable construction company in Southern California that's a client of mine. And you know what they're doing now with each other? They're going, beep, 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 beep. And what happens is what just happened here. They'll actually laugh at each other, right? As opposed to, there'll be a sense of, yeah, we got it, and yeah, I apologize, and I can receive it all. Okay, cool. Questions. We're going to go into health right now, but anything you want, you just like to bounce around right now. Who's got a question on anything or a comment? Sir. All right. Say it. I'm going to have to hear you say that again.
How would you share this with a larger group,
The question is, how could you share this, right, with others? It's never too early to collaborate, right? You do not have to be perfected in this to have a conversation, right? So I wouldn't try to boil the ocean. Well, there are ways you can teach it to a large setting. I will tell you, we don't have this geared up right now or teed up. There is an electronic platform. It's called our operating system that has all videos and just so helpful things that you can put in front of other people. Now, there's a small charge for that. It's like $10 a month, as long as you want it. You can do it for a month or less. Or, you're still going to pay $10. But, yeah. But that's ways to do it, too. Like, I've had families say, hey, we're going to watch this 5 Gears master class together. It's things like that. So, anyway, I think it's helpful, but you could just get ideas on this. You could collaborate. Invite other people into the conversation. But, I could talk privately to you on that. Anything else? We're gonna hit the health side. Okay, let's do this. I don't believe I have slides on this, but if you look at page 3, now I know we might not have enough of these sheets everywhere, but there's 2 ways we are evaluating our ability to access gears. One way is how healthy is the gear. And you could say, well, it's a green, meaning it's healthy. Yellow, not so healthy. Red, really pretty bad. Okay. So one way is just to evaluate, but the other is to say, what's my natural order? Right? Some people would say, I naturally go 2nd gear, and then 3rd, and then 4th and 5th, and 1st is the one I least access, right? That's the one that I don't naturally go to. So I hope that that's clear enough, but it's really two ways to look at the gears. And here's what I'd ask you to do. If you have a sheet and you can quickly go through it and like give yourself a red, green, yellow. And once you've done that, just say, okay, there's 5 gears here, and we'll just set reverse or responsive aside as the 6th. But just to say, this is my natural gear order. Okay. Now, someone was asking me, so just go ahead and do that, but I'm still going to say something as you're doing that. But someone was going to ask me, what happens? Nobody's going to all stay in the right gear at the right time. Let's just say in a home or on a team. But what this does do, this little rank idea, it helps you understand one another better. And to say, wow, she really values 2nd gear. Wow, he really values 5th gear. And it's more natural. In certain personalities, they are more natural. But it's a way just to have a conversation. I hope that was clear enough for you. But take about 2 minutes to work that through for yourself. And then we'll just do what we did before. Buddy up or triple up. And just talk about what you're learning about your own gear tendencies. Once you feel like you've worked that page, to some degree, go ahead and have a conversation with someone next to you. Josh, you looking to triple up, or you got some people? All right. Let's take about one more minute. Just one more minute. All right, we're gonna move on. Does anyone feel like there's something that they want to say or gotta say? Like there was an aha for you right now, even when you're talking in pairs or triplets? Is there, who's got an aha?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I was telling Ms. Andrea that my first gear is red because I feel like I have to, like I'm stealing my rest time because 5 days out of the week I go 8 hours at work. If I choose to go to the gym, do yoga or whatever, that happens during my work time. As soon as I get home, I'm taking the kids to all the activities until Saturday most days. It's only on Wednesdays that I technically can have a traditional schedule. So I steal all of my rest time whenever I'm not connecting underneath the level as much as I want to.
All right. It's real good. Now I'm going to give a reflection. Thank you so much. Someone else, anyone else have an aha or something they really want to say? I forgot your name. I'm so sorry, Carmen. I should have known.
Transitioning between the things is really hard. So the aha and still my personal query to take away from this is attenuating to transition from one to the other before burning out the warning signs in the one.
So you're saying that, and when you say transitioning, you're like, all right, let's just say you're in an introverted gear, but now you need to go into another place.
Balancing the drive.
Yeah, okay. That's real good, balancing the drive. In fact, I'm going to show you a little picture in a minute. I think it'll relate. I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, my aha moment was to realize that my brain changes between the school year and the summer. I'm a school teacher.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm really focused on first and second year because I have the time to recharge and connect.
Yeah.
But then when school year starts, I'm in fourth and fifth year, like every day, fourth year, second, like I'm
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. My son is a fourth grade teacher, and he's actually going to move into sixth grade in a different town, but he's chosen not to live in the town where he's teaching because he does not want to always be available, right? You go to the grocery and you've got, All righty. Life is complex. These are good boundaries and good ideas. I'm going to say something about just the comment about, you always got stuff going with the kids, et cetera, et cetera. And it's hard. One of the guys in this construction company was telling me that they started using the gears at home, and they finally came up with a routine that worked for them. And here's what happens. When dad gets home from work, they have a group hug. Okay? And dad leaves his device in the car. Now, I realize not everybody can. I understand, but I'm telling you what they did. And then he gets 45 minutes of first gear, and he goes out to his shop, and that's how he's recharging. But then when he comes back in, it's second gear, it's all of that. So it's just they negotiated on these things, and it's just really worked works super well for them, some sort of transition. And I'm actually going to just make a comment. In fact, Chris, that picture that is there, I think it's slide number 38, it says mastering transitions. And we have another slide that we don't have really a chance to go into right now, but it's on mastering your settings. So you start to say, well, how can I trade up? Maybe I have a commute in the morning and I make that a fourth gear time because I'm calling people or getting things set. But sometimes it's a second gear time, or sometimes it's just first gear. I'm chilling, etc. But it's just this degree of intentionality. Now, I don't know if we can pull that one up, but it's basically saying, if not, I can still talk it through. So you guys have been awesome back there to work with us. But it's about mastering transitions. And I think, Carmen, you were referring to that. But here's the subtitle: Use triggers and markers to help you shift to be in the right gear at the right time. And one of my colleagues, here we go. So one of my colleagues was using this very dynamic, related to, actually several of my clients do this now. But when they see a certain thing on the way home, that becomes the trigger where they're starting to shut it down because they're going to go into a different gear. And in this case, it's a gas. Oh, here, yeah. That's just a suggestion of settings, but you have to work those out. But let's hit the next slide just for a second here. So that's a common gas station back where I live. It's a convenience store, and this one guy I know. Well, actually, a couple of people. When they see this store on the way home, that's when they're intentionally shutting the device down, or they've made a mental shift that when they get home, they're going to be present. Because we don't want to do this, I'd say, with children, if we can at all avoid it. And that is that we're getting out of the vehicle and we're walking in and we're, on something, But be able to say to somebody, well, I'm okay, I'm home. And, just avoiding the traps of transitions. There is something else just about transitions, and that is, let's just say you see a counselor, or you see someone in the specialized services where they're going to charge you for an hour, but it's really like 50 minutes. But for people to have that sort of margin, to say an hour-long meeting is really 55 minutes, or it's 50 or something like that. And even if you have people, let's say people are coming in and out of your office for meetings, for you to be able to clearly transition, to be mindful about the next people are coming in. It's a discipline. All right. Let's do this. Chris Arbona and I were just talking. There's a couple of tools I want to show you before we're done, and I think it's off of the conversation you and I were having, Chris. So, yeah, I think these are. I just want to show you a couple before we're out. But right now, just look at the back page 4. By the way, at the bottom, you're going to see a QR code, which is for me, and that's if you know someone that would benefit from the sort of work that I do in getting teams and organizations at their top. Click that and you'll find me that way. I think you got enough on me somewhere anyway. There's this exercise we talk about trading up your summer. And that was just an opportunity for you to make notes. Hey, here's how intentional we want to be during the summertime. I understand every situation is different. But I'd love it if you'd fill out that 5 gears plan. It says, what's one clear action you can take to be present and productive? Okay? So I want you to, I'm going to start to transition into that. And if you have things you could write down, go ahead. But I think what I want to do just in the moment, Chris, is do what we had said with a couple of those tools. And could you hit provisional plan promise? This is a life changer, and this is worth $100,000 to your company. But this is so important in terms of relationship with parents and children and with each other. Have you ever thought you heard somebody somebody agree to something and then they backed out of it later and you were upset about it, or you got into this kind of a thing, or, some of us are more naturally people pleasers, so we say yes to a lot of things, and people think they heard a promise, but we were being very provisional, or somebody says, hey, let's do lunch, and somebody, yeah, sure, and then maybe we do and maybe we don't. But these are premeditated These are premeditated pains that we are bringing to one another when we are not as clear as we need to be about what we were just talking about. So let's just say, for instance, as a parent said, hey, we're going to take off for whatever. We're doing this family getaway this summer, and whatever a destination thing would be. Well, once you say, well, hey, we're going to do that, people are going to hear that as promise. The idea is using these three words to be clear about expectation. And just very quickly, you can see that the word provisional means we're talking out loud right now. We're thinking this through. Yeah, maybe we could go out for ice cream. Well, I find it interesting that in business, customers hear what they want to hear. And if you're not really clear, they're going to hear promise where you are saying something like plan. Okay. So I work with banks, and I know bankers have gotten themselves into trouble, so to speak, by saying to someone, well, there's a possibility we could get that rate. You've been a good customer, and we might be able to move on that. What did the customer hear? Yeah, they heard that rate, But this could happen with dating. This could happen in roommate activity. This could happen with so many things. And some people are very prone to provisional, but to use this language, it makes things so good. I'm going to give you an example. I think in terms of promise, when somebody suggests something, I tend to go to promise. Now, that doesn't mean it's there. It's not that we've agreed to it, but I will start to go there. So I mentioned my older son, Andrew, but it's interesting. He's 37 and my other son is 36. We use this language all the time so we don't blow each other up. And I think I just told you, Chris, that like with my son, my older son, I had said, hey, could you help me do a brake job? He said, yeah, absolutely, promise. And I said, well, could we do it next Sunday, in the afternoon? He said, that's provisional. I've got to talk to his wife, Sarah. I said, well, when can you know by? And he said, well, I could know by promise, he said, or I could know by Thursday. I could go to promise by Thursday if it's going to happen. But I will promise you that I'll tell you by Thursday. Now, it sounds like we're just like overdoing it. It's so easy once you start doing it. So the way that worked out, it was like Thursday, we checked in. As soon as I call him, he says, no, Dad, I can't do it, but I will promise for the following Sunday. And breaks. Okay, so it works. So you see how that can work in family space. And sometimes the most you can do is to say, I promise you we'll make a decision by Saturday at noon. Okay, but right now I can't go. Right now we're provisional. Okay, see how this could help your best relationships, people at work, so you're not disappointing one another. Okay, but you start using this, it's super sweet. So if that's helpful to you, remember it. And then Chris, the other one that I said I wanted to show. There's power here. Now some in the room are going to know what's behind this more than others, because actually a staff meeting yesterday for the church staff, I had talked about something called the support and challenge matrix, and we're not going into that here right now. But when you see up top, the tool is called the power of the medium. And the medium means, it could be anything from social media to texting, electronic. How are we connecting with people? This is so important these days. Okay, and here's what we're saying. Anything that's red, not so good, if you're looking to bring challenge. Now, to say, hey, we're doing a 5 gears workshop, I put that on social media today. That's cool. But let's just say I named a political party or a political figure or something like that. And I said, what in the heck? Or I just started bringing challenge on social media. Stop it. I saw somebody, I got to see the battlefield of Bastogne and all of the amazing that happened in that Battle of the Bulge. I posted something online and somebody turned that into a political discussion. And I just stopped it. Because what happens, social media things go really wild and sideways. Texting, don't challenge people with texts.
Yeah.
When can you do that? Don't ever do it. Don't say, I didn't like your attitude and you're always doing this. And do you ever get those things? If that comes your way, this is why you want this tool. Because if I get a text message like that, what I'm going to do is immediately pick up the phone. See, we're getting better, but emails, all that stuff, don't challenge people. Don't challenge each other. The more severe the challenge anyway, the closer you need to be in person. And there have been times that, this works so well. I remember there was a situation about me that was handled so good because somebody gave me the benefit of the doubt and said, what they did is they emailed me something and said, hey, with regard to the power of the medium, I need to have a conversation with you. I knew they were for me, right? And when we had this conversation and I explained what was going on, they said, oh, absolutely, that totally makes sense, right? But that's why you want to press toward the green, the more challenge it's going to be, right? So just really avoid this. And I would just say, especially family space, avoid that you use those devices to weaponize, right? And now that has nothing really to do with 5 gears, but it kind of does in the sense we're talking about relational intelligence. And you can say, guess what? Around here in our family or our team, we will not bring challenge in these weak ways. We will have phone calls or video chats or things like that. We do have hard conversations. Those are necessary, but hard conversations can be really good conversations if they're managed well. Alrighty. Take a minute. We hit the top of the hour, but would you not leave before you've written something down about how 5 gears, how you're going to apply this. And once you've told somebody else and you've said, okay, got it, then we'll call it a show. And I'll stick around, okay? So at least tell somebody what you think you're going to do, what an action plan will be on the basis of the gears. Alrighty? Good deal. With respect to the time, I'm going to call my portion over, all right, and be available to talk. But I want to thank you for your attentiveness. I think this has meant something to you because you've been really dialed in. But my challenge for you is make sure you told somebody what your plan is before you leave the room, all right? So, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. All right.